Fresh from the showcase here at SwissWatchExpo, we're comparing the Patek Philippe annual calendar watches, the 5205 and 5905, coming right up. When people call me and they ask about what's the best Patek Philippe watch they can buy, that's such a difficult question because it really depends on what's important to you. But it's an interesting question and something that keeps me awake at night thinking about. And I think I might have the answer for you here today. One of my favorite complications is an annual calendar. And I know a lot of people come down on the side of the perpetual calendar. The difference is a perpetual calendar knows which cycle of the leap year we're in and automatically adjusts for you. So it knows which months have 30 days, which have 31, but it also knows which Februaries have 28 days and which have 29 days. It can be a little bit of a challenge to keep it set right and to keep it wound because you can actually do some damage to those movements if you set them wrong or set them at the wrong time of day. The best thing if you've got a perpetual calendar watch is to put it in a watch winder, let it turn the watch when you're not wearing it so it keeps going all the time and all those settings never get off. Sort of a nice bridge between the very simple Calatrava with just the time and those grand complications is the annual calendar complication. And this is one of my favorites. The difference between an annual calendar and a perpetual calendar is the annual calendar does know which months have 30 days and which have 31, but it doesn't know which cycle of the leap year we're in. So once a year, on February 28th or 29th or March 1st, you'll need to adjust the date one time per year. Not bad. I mean, I enjoy playing with my watches anyway, so it's kind of fun, but just giving up that one piece of complication of whether it knows whether it's a leap year or not results in a watch that's a lot more manageable, a lot easier to live with because it's not really hard to reset it if things get off. So we have here the 5205, and it is just a stunningly beautiful watch. When you look at this watch, it is such a classic Patek Philippe design. You have the curves of the case are just beautiful. The proportions are perfect. And there's really not much that I could add to the description of this watch that hasn't been said before, but it's simple, it's tasteful. I love the symmetrical aspect of the dial. It has the indicators for the annual calendar at 10, 12, and 2, and then a indicator at 6 that's centered. And it has a running second hand that you can see is actually going. And it's a watch that definitely flies a little under the radar. If you're out at a Braves game cheering on your hometown favorites, not necessarily going to draw a lot of attention on the watch. The gentle curves of the case, I think, are just beautiful. It's a dedicated annual calendar. This is a 40 millimeter case, and it does have the moon phase and the 24-hour scale at 6. A lot of people really love that moon phase function. Not sure if anyone actually uses it nowadays. We're not really mostly fishermen or people running moonshine in the middle of the night, so we need that light of the moon. But it's a beautiful feature. I love the moon phase on a watch. It just looks really good. The way the dial's set up, they have these sort of concentric chapter rings is the way it's set up with sort of sectors. And it's just a really beautiful execution of the way they've done the dial. Of course, it has the exhibition case back so that you can see all of that Patek Philippe attention to detail with their perlage and the Cote de Genève, the handcrafted movement with all of the decoration that goes into it. And this has the Patek Philippe deployant buckle as well. So this one's a great pick. And at 40 millimeters, it's a very wearable size for most people. Large wrists or small, it's going to look great on you. And I would have no complaints with this being the one that you pick as the best Patek Philippe watch there is. Now, for me, when I see this one next to it, it's pretty obvious that it's a good bit bigger. We're talking about the difference between a 40 millimeter watch and 42 millimeter. It's not a big difference on paper, but in real life, on your wrist, it's a pretty significant difference between the two. But then we get to the mechanics of it as well. So this is the 5905. It was released in 2015. This one that I have in my hand is a 2019 model. And it really combines probably the two most useful complications, that it has the annual calendar, but it also has a flyback chronograph. So the great thing about this one, it does have the pushers here for the chronograph, and then it has the adjusters for the annual calendar on the side, but they're discreetly hidden away. But when you start the chronograph, it is a flyback, which means you can start the chronograph, the second hand starts going. It has a minutes counter at 6 o'clock. You can stop if your event is over with the top pusher and then restart after you've recorded the time. But let's say you're doing laps and you can see that your car or horse or whatever it is has finished the first lap, and you can make a mental note of what that time is, and then you can press the bottom button to instantly restart. And that way you don't lose that second that it takes to start, stop, and reset. It just instantly resets. And that's what's called the flyback chronograph. So this watch combines both of those. One of the things I love about this one is that when you wind it, it just feels so silky smooth. It has ceramic bearings in the movement, and it just makes it feel like the way you would think a Patek Philippe should feel. The dial, this blue dial, is just the perfect shade and saturation. Everything about it is just the perfect execution for me. The minutes counter for the chronograph is the small dial at 6. So they really got away from the chronograph having 2 or 3 subdials, and they've made this watch with a vertical clutch mechanism on the chronograph. And what that means is that you could start the chronograph and just let it run all the time. And so that big second hand for the chronograph could actually be your running seconds, because there's not a secondary running seconds hand on this watch. But they thought of everything, and they thought, some people are going to want that. And so they did make it a vertical clutch movement. So it's no problem at all to leave it running all the time. It won't cause any extra wear on the movement like it would on a lateral clutch movement. One of the things that I like about this one too is that down in the 6 o'clock subdial, it has a danger zone indicator. So it turns white when it's time that you could change the day, the date, the month, set the time, no worries whatsoever. So that's from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But at 6 p.m., it changes to black. And that tells you that you're in the danger zone. Don't change anything about the setting of the day or the date or the month or anything like that when you're in the danger zone, because you could actually harm the movement. You could break off some of those teeth. If it's trying to change automatically and you change it manually, you can really do some damage. And on a watch like this, I mean, let's face it, it could take a good bit of time and some money to get that repaired. So you don't want to do that, and it's great that they put it on the dial so you can see it, and it will warn you if you're in the danger zone. On the movement, again, it's the similar movement to the other watch, except it has that flyback chronograph. It's a 21 karat gold rotor that you can see, and it has all the decoration you would expect. This movement is a 55-hour power reserve, and it's accurate to -3 to +2 seconds a day. So if I had to pick between the two, it would be a tough choice, because the 40 millimeter, the 5205, it's definitely more subtle, a little more under the radar, a little more of a dressy watch size in the 40 millimeter, but the 5905 at 42 millimeter, beautiful blue dial. It's definitely more casual, being a larger size and a blue dial, and it has the functions that I think really are the most useful complications you can get all combined on one watch. So if I had to pick just one, maybe I would come down on this one day and this one another day. I'm not sure. But today I'm kind of feeling this one. So give us a call here at SwissWatchExpo. We'll be happy to go over all the Patek Philippe watches that we have in stock. We usually have a couple hundred of them, and which is a couple hundred more than we had at the Patek Philippe dealer that I used to work for before I came here. So it's always exciting that we actually have watches in stock ready to ship today. And we have a great selection. We have vintage watches going back to the 1940s and 50s a lot of times with Patek Philippe, all the way up through the current lineup. So give us a call, and we'll be happy to go over the inventory with you, and we'll be happy to offer a live video call via FaceTime or Zoom or WhatsApp, and we'll show you our store and our service center as well as individual watches.